GM everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond PFPs, brought to you by OSPN, the Open Source People's Network. This podcast is in partnership with the Rari Foundation, the DAO behind the Rarible protocol, and the Rari chain. The Rari chain, which recently launched, introduces a platform with embedded royalties, low transaction fees, and high transaction speed. It's designed to support creators and developers in the NFT space, ensuring fair compensation and broadening the potential for NFT applications. Now, Beyond PFPs is a podcast that is all about exploring the depth of NFTs beyond digital collectibles, highlighting their impact within various industries. Today, we're discussing how Web3 will redefine social media. We're here with Zach, co founder of Coordinape, the primary platform for decentralized community led payments, and also one of the co founders of CoLinks, a Web3 social platform that spun out of Coordinape, which focuses on reputation building while presenting elements of SocialFi while utilizing AI as well. And we also have Gio and Leonard, co founders of IDriss, a community owned suite of tools that aims to make Web3 more user friendly. One of their most notable features is a Chrome extension that displays a widget on Twitter profiles, allowing for peer to peer payments in crypto in order for users to transform their social media profiles into decentralized marketplaces. Glad to have you guys on for an episode of Beyond PFPs. Really excited to discuss this topic on disrupting social media through Web3 tech.
Awesome. It's great to be here, Jaris. Thank you.
Have you guys on. Yeah, we're going to learn much more about CoLinks today. I learned about CoLinks from a lot of high signal people within this space, like Meta Dreamer from Meta Factory and Zoo from Juicebox, or previously at Juicebox. I know he's building Nance now, but he was the person that actually invited me to CoLinks. So shout outs to you, Zoo, and shout outs to Meta Dreamer for actually telling me about CoLinks before creating an account. My first question here is for Zach. So my first question is, what inspired the creation of CoLinks, and how is it different from most social platforms?
Yeah, so CoLinks is based on the idea that a lot of social media is really noisy, right? And everyone's kind of shouting louder and trying to be more clever or more outrageous to somehow get engagement with what they're doing. And so CoLinks was really an outgrowth of the Coordinape circles. In Coordinape circles, people allocate give to each other, and that can represent compensation and also reputation. It's basically saying this person added value to this project. What we saw is people wanted to give when they weren't necessarily bound just to a Coordinape circle. So how can you really develop that reputation and endorse people? And also, how can you create a social network that's just a lot higher signal? And so we used actually the contract from FriendTech. So the idea that sort of people could use buying a link as a sort of filter for noise. And so instead of just getting a sort of endless, algorithmic feed, you get the feed of everyone whose link you purchased or who's purchased your link. And so it allows you to really sort of understand, pick specific people and have a much more, we call it like low key, high signal place to share ideas and to explore, similar interests. And yeah, there's a lot of features coming that we'll probably talk about that allow you, more discovery and really having that kind of curated professional network, as opposed to just kind of the much more broad scattershot method that a lot of other social media takes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to unpack there, especially like when it comes to noise on social media. Like the app we're on today could be very, very noisy, where it's hard to like filter through. Like even like my trending section, for an example, on X, I'm pretty much just seeing, I'm seeing a lot that's going on in just pop culture, not necessarily what I actually engage with. I only use Twitter for crypto related content, really. That's it. That's
Mhm.
all I engage with. But I still see what's going on, in either pop culture, sports, music, entertainment. And I'm not really, here for that. I'm here specifically to get more of a deeper understanding of the space. So I noticed like on CoLinks, you can get that high signal content. Yeah, it's cool how you can how you guys had that like inspiration from Friendtech in terms of like being able to purchase someone's link in order to get their content directly. And also when it comes to like purchasing somebody's link, there's a few things that comes to mind. But like when you purchase somebody's link, you could purchase multiple links and like sell one in the future if you like speculate on it. And then I'm thinking like imagine if you become friends with somebody like imagine if this existed during like the Bitcoin talk days or like like Bitcoin magazine when that was really popular. And like that's how I know like Vitalik got his start in the space like before Ethereum was created. So like imagine if you like purchased a link of Vitalik, when he like just got involved in the space and then like sold it today. Like, like you're actually like investing in into like his personal growth
Mhm.
within the space. I think like
Yeah,
just that. Cool.
that was definitely part of the idea. And we're now gonna be experimenting with something we're calling linkitos, because even though we flatten the bonding curve quite a bit, like it's still it gets prohibitively expensive. When people it's like
Mhm.
once people get run up a little bit and it costs $10 to connect with them, um, that can limit the growth of the network. So we're basically creating now, people can mint their own derivative linkitos, which are cheaper, and then funds of those linkitos flow back to their link holders and to them. So you can make a big bet on somebody if you think that they're going to grow a lot,
Mhm.
and you can speculate and buy a few links, or you can just get their linkitos so that you can get access to what they're writing, and they can see what you're posting as well. Um, and then you can also now give in CoLinks, and that's something I think that we're really also super keen to lean into, not just the content, but really a way to endorse people on chain for things. So LinkedIn has endorsements, but they're really pretty meaningless. You have an unlimited number of them, and you can anyone can give them to anyone for anything. Um, and give are more limited, and so those kind of on-chain attestations that really allow you to vouch for somebody and build that social graph over time is something we're really excited about.
Yeah, man.
Are you interested in building NFTs that'll disrupt traditional industries? You can get started by using Rarible Protocol. It's an open source cross chain NFT protocol that's community governed. You can check out the code on GitHub and then request an API key at rarible.org. No matter what NFT project you intend on building, Rarible Protocol equips you with the necessary tools to turn your ideas into reality. If you like the fact that the Rarible protocol is community governed, consider joining the Rari Foundation, which is the DAO behind the protocol. Joining the Rari Foundation offers you the opportunity to help shape the future of NFT infrastructure. If you're looking to engage in governance and vote on key decisions, you can become a delegate by joining community calls and participating on forum, which will boost your reputation and help you earn some voting power through our delegate incentive program. If you'd like to learn more about the community, visit rari.foundation and then join the Discord server and begin joining our calls and making connections with the community. A community that is all about supporting creators. The Rari Foundation demonstrated how much they support NFT creators by creating the Rari chain to make sure that royalties are embedded at the node level, ensuring that creators always receive royalties from secondary sales. By building on Rari Chain, you're safeguarded by a system that respects and protects creator earnings. Learn more about Rari Chain at rarichain.org. With Rari, you're joining a movement focused on decentralized governance, innovation, and creator empowerment. Now, back to the episode.
Zach, does CoLinks have a similar mechanics to Friendtech? So when you buy someone's link, you're getting an exclusive access to chat with them in a group chat.
No, it's not a group chat. It's more like a news feed. So, your feed in CoLinks is made up basically of everyone whose link you own and who owns yours. And so it's not an exclusive group chat, but it is like a way to see what they're posting. So essentially, like your link purchases and who purchases yours is the algorithm that determines what kind of content you're seeing.
I like the mechanics behind the giving. Basically, like in case you probably have, everyone has a couple of people that they would really want to be plugged into their feed and see what they're up to.
Yeah, and it's also a way to connect, with people who maybe, we have several people in CoLinks with a huge Twitter audience, and so they're very hard. It's hard to kind of cut through the noise if you want to share with them what you're doing. But if you buy their link in CoLinks, you're going to be on their feed, and it's just like I said, it's a much more low key, high signal place to interact with people. And so, we have several folks on there who have over 100,000 Twitter followers, but CoLinks is still a smaller ecosystem, with people who are kind of diehard DAO folks. We have a lot of DAO folks in there, a lot of art community folks, and so it's still really early days. People are kind of finding their niches, and we're sort of exploring features and things to add as well. But it does feel like a different sort of vibe and kind of a relief. It actually reminded me of like at ETH Denver, you go to some of these parties, and there's 10,000 people and, the music is thumping and it's loud and you're just kind of like, whoa, it's overwhelming. And then, you go to these low key events where there's just, some chill music and only 50 people in the room, and you actually get to have some in-depth conversations. And that's kind of the same contrast, the same vibe we're trying to build with CoLinks.
Is it already live? Can we try it out today?
100%. Yeah, it is live, and people are posting. There's conversations happening. We have like a big question every week. So some question that everyone can post to, and you can see everyone's replies. So it's kind of a good mechanism to discover like potential people to link and find. You do need invite codes. I'm happy to post a bunch of those. Maybe I'll figure out a way to post them in the comments here in this Twitter space, awesome, so that people can find them and grab them.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. And I know Anointing Thompson, when we set up your account, I don't know if you like ran out of all your invite codes. I know I ran out of mine, but Thompson or Mellison, if you have some, you can feel free to share some. But yeah, Zach, if you have a ton of invite codes that you can share, feel free to share that in the comments. I'm sure people would love to explore CoLinks. And then like a few things came to mind, and then we'll get directly into IDriss afterwards. But like as you were talking about how you could purchase someone's link in order to see their content. I view that very similar to like in this case, since you can see everyone's content from the links you purchase, it's like an open version of Patreon, basically. Like you subscribe to somebody on Patreon, but you only see their content when you view their profile. But in this case, on the homepage, you get to see all everyone's content here, and then support the creators. I guess like, would it make sense to like offer a monthly pay model similar to Patreon, or just stay with like the one link and then you just see their content? Or could it create like specialized content or like special content where you only see it if you like a monthly subscriber or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, those are all interesting models. I think one thing we've noticed is that as people's links get more expensive, like it almost creates pressure. Like, oh man, I got to come up with something good. I think like monthly subscription makes that even more potential. I don't know. I mean, the way that it's working now, I think is good because it sort of allows people to curate and cultivate. And it is fun when you get someone early, right when they come in CoLinks, and you pay $1 for their link, and then they start posting a bunch of amazing stuff, and other people buy it. A lot of people buy 2 links, right when someone comes on, so I can keep following them and have one to sell later as they grow. So there is that speculative element, but really, what we're focused on more is like people finding those quality interactions. Really finding people who maybe they wouldn't have known, and having kind of higher signal conversations.
For
And
sure.
being able to share a reputation.
It does go. It does go both ways, though, right? If I buy your link, you see my stuff too.
Exactly
my
right.
Mm-hmm. How do people react when they have like a bunch of people following them and they suddenly have a really full timeline?
Well, I mean, you can always mute anyone.
That works.
So
okay.
if someone like, yeah, buys my link and then just is spamming or just saying stuff that I don't want to see, it's very easy to mute them.
Makes sense. Okay. I was worried about that. Imagine signing up and then suddenly a bunch of people buy your link and just spam your timeline and you can't mute them. But no, that's a good solution.
You can mute them, and that's it. It has been cool to see. It's like we really have virtually no bots because because you have to buy your own link, to join and start playing. So even though it's a very low cost barrier to entry, the bots are the bots. There's not as incentivized for them because they can't just mass produce. So that keeps the signal high.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up, and we could get into that a little bit later. I also wanted to bring in reputation, and I think that's cool how you can actually get an idea of the type of member or contributor a person is as they reach out to you. Where on Twitter they might disregard you, or when you send a DM to somebody, you're not in their primary inbox. You're in that same field where all the spammers are. So they might not take your message as seriously, and they have no idea of the contributions you made in the space as you're reaching out to them. So you probably have a much better opportunity when you reach out to somebody directly on CoLinks to get a reply, because they could check your profile out and see the types of the types of contributions you made and your reputation overall in the space, which I think is very impactful. Well, my next question now is for IDriss, actually. So Gio, Leonard, whoever would like to take this one, just want to know what inspired the creation of IDriss, and can you guys explain how it works for our audience, please, and how people can begin using it to essentially turn their social media profile into a decentralized peer-to-peer marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a while now. I think the idea started around January, February 2021 or so. Gio and I were sitting in a coffee shop and, just created some tokens, NFTs like you did probably. And we wanted to send them to each other. And even though we were sitting next to each other, it was pretty hard for us, or not hard, but pretty lengthy process to just transfer simple tokens, that are not listed anywhere and not default tokens in a wallet. So we just thought that there should be some alternative that makes it more like something we're already used to from the Web2 space, or the traditional finance space rather, where you can just send funds through knowing someone's email or Twitter name or phone number, like with PayPal or Zelle or Venmo, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the whole idea and how it began. And then we just started drafting a registry contract on a piece of paper, and then a couple months later deployed it. And yeah, that's the protocol level of it. We have a registry where anyone can really add their public wallet address and connect it to their Twitter name, for example. And then in order for people to use it, you of course need some apps, and we built some apps around it. For example, this browser extension that you just mentioned. And what it does is it injects icons or elements or widgets on top of websites that you're already using. For example, Twitter or Etherscan or PowerUp XYZ. And we also have things now for, streaming services like Twitch or YouTube. And what it does is it basically looks up this registry that we built in the beginning and displays widgets next to people's names that are in this registry. And that allows you to just hover over them and send transactions to them, or do custom interactions also. But the default one is just a peer-to-peer transaction.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I saw IDriss, I just thought how cool it was that you're altering the way that we're viewing Twitter, where you can have, you can basically set up your own storefront if you wanted to sell an item, for an example. And this way it'll be like the way that it is currently. It's more like manual, but I envision in the future we could actually like display items on IDriss, like through your widget on Twitter, and be able to sell things there. I thought of something like that when I used to when I used to do drop shipping on Instagram. I was thinking, man, I know like my sales were decent, but like instead of having to get people to go to the website in order to purchase something, if I was able to get like meet people exactly where they are on Instagram, and if they can
Mhm.
actually purchase it there, I was thinking I know that my like conversion would be even higher. And it
Right.
seems like you'll be able to do such a thing with IDriss.
Yeah, and we all know, especially the ones that are in the space here, probably we all know that the future of social networks is in Web3 social networks.
Mhm.
But the reality right now is also that we're all still on Twitter and all still on these platforms that we've been using for years. It's not like we do a switch right like that in a day and then we're gone. So that's why we're currently at least focusing on these existing networks like Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and so on. So we can, you know, talk to people that are on these platforms. Um, but then also decentralized social networks, of course, are on our roadmap. So we can just take whatever we have now and whatever works on Twitter, and we can just plug it into any other platform. So that's not a problem at all.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And I'm thinking, like, I'm just sitting here thinking of like what else could be displayed through your Idris widget on Twitter, where like I know it's one thing to be able to send transactions to someone, and I've thought of this other feature I'm about to mention for a while, where if you could like highlight or like you can like hover over somebody's Idris account or Idris widget on their Twitter and actually see certain NFTs, like the type of NFTs that I personally would like to display are like reputation based NFTs. So this will lead into like a future question, and we could like talk about this in a little bit. But like your Cold Soul NFT, like I know that has to do with reputation and showcases like your GitHub contributions, coordinate allocations, coordinate rounds that you were involved in, just like deeper information about like your participation in this space. And I think that would be pretty cool if like, especially because like you said, like a lot of people aren't necessarily using decentralized social media today. Although I would love to see a higher adoption rate of decentralized social media and actually using the tools on a day-to-day basis that we constantly preach about within this space. But like, I feel like you're meeting somebody or somebody you come across them for the first time on Twitter, be able to hover over their Idris widget and pick up that information from their Cold Soul NFT. I think that would be pretty cool to like get an understanding of their contributions in this space before you even get into a conversation, and then having to take their word for it because people could just lie about what they do in the space too. So at least like this is a form of verification.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, in theory, you can just customize every widget you display for every person. So if you have an ENS, you can display a different one. If you're part of a Gitcoin round, you can display a Gitcoin badge or whatever. You can display some scores if you want to calculate them based on contribution to some project or yeah, display NFTs. You can open a marketplace if you want to. All that is customizable. And that's the cool thing about building open source technology, right? If you have a great
Hell
idea,
yeah.
you can just and you know how to do it, then you can just come into to GitHub and create a pull request. And if you don't know how to do it, you can still open an issue and open a feature request. That's all possible, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, man. That's what I love about Web3 is that you can actually customize features on platforms where I mean, you're not going to be able to do that in a traditional social media platform. Like I remember one of my favorite features on MySpace was being able to customize my profile. I remember, when I was young and playing around on MySpace and being able to customize my profile, make it look like a landing page. That was a feature I really loved. I was disappointed that no other social platform really allowed for that on their platform. But being that like so with decentralized social media is like open source, I wonder if like you now like creating that opportunity for people to create their own features, where I think is really cool, especially like being able to do so with IDriss since it's like fully open source, like these features mentioned today. Or if anybody has another idea, they can actually go ahead and deploy that without any permission. which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I think
But
that's usually not talked about enough when you talk about open source tech, because usually it's like, okay, it's open source, I can create a pull request and it's going to be merged and it's going to be in the live product, but you don't have to go that way, right? You don't have to push your idea onto every other user. You can just use that code and build it for yourself if you want something small changed, and just keep it updated with what's going on GitHub. Right? You can just deploy your own local version. That's I think the power of it.
Yeah,
yeah,
modular forkability is that concept. When I first got into DeFi, I was like, oh man, these are Legos that people can, do in all sorts of creative ways.
Oh yes, most certainly, and inspires people to actually become developers as well. At least, like that's what inspired me to learn like basic HTML on MySpace. Just being able to have an aesthetically pleasing profile. Like it all started there. So like now with Web3, it's like that, but on steroids now. Because now you could create. You're not just editing how your profile looks. You're creating all types of new features. And I saw. Looks as if Geo unmuted. Was anything you wanted to say, sir?
Yeah, we basically started with releasing a couple of widgets that we and our community thinks that are useful. So social tipping widget, governance widget for snapshot integrations, and we have a couple of them lined up. But the idea is, like Leonard said, to open up the process and enable external organizations and developers to propose their own widget by contributing to our open source code. And we imagine that there will be some decentralized process where our community and stakeholders in the IDriss ecosystem have a say when it comes to deciding whether a given pull request can be accepted or not. As we can imagine, it's a live product with over 75,000 weekly users in Google Chrome Store. There might be also attempts to submit a malicious code. So that will be probably up to some decentralized process that we're figuring out right now.
Nice. Love that. You guys are constantly iterating and inspiring the community to do so, and love the monthly community calls within IDriss as well, and the IDriss Discord server, and just seeing what people are up to and how they would like to contribute to the community. Very, just really like the fact that you guys are so open in nature. And then my next question here was for Zach about the advantages of decentralized social platforms over centralized ones. I know we talked about a lot of ways in which they differ, but like in your words, like how would you put it as to like why decentralized social media would be superior to a centralized social platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simplest way to point it out is one, obviously it's unruggable, right? If someone decides that you shouldn't be on the platform, they can't just take away your access. But I think the more important one for us is the reputation piece. Is that, in decentralized, it's like as soon as I leave Twitter, sort of all of my followers and all of my tweets and everything, they all live there. And so I can't really take that reputation with me. But the power of Web3 and decentralized social is that I can, right? So, if I get give in CoLinks, and then, I want to go over to Farcaster, we're actually releasing next week, you'd be able to give in Farcaster.
Wow.
So when you see something, a cast that you like, or just like, if I see Jaris there and I'm like, man, this guy's such a hustler, drop shipping on IG and GameStop and technical analysis, doing degen trading and building, DAO tools, I can give directly there. So I guess it's sort of, harkening back to that modularity piece, that interoperability, and that the fact that I own my posts and my reputation as I go around to these different places, and I can't be kicked off, or if someone all of a sudden decides like this is more expensive, I'm going to double the cost of it, or all those things. It's like when someone controls the walled garden, they kind of make the rules. And for decentralized systems, it's much more open and composable.
Yeah, that's something you don't really hear about too much in this space is data ownership. Really, like being able to actually own your social data. I think is going to be a huge factor within decentralized social media once people really understand how important it is, especially when it comes to being deplatformed, as you mentioned, where, I mean, not too long ago, the Twitter deplatformed, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, like he was literally like deplatformed. So if he's deplatformed, they could, easily deplatform anyone for, a certain, like, now, like, the type of content that you put out has to be altered in some way where you're not technically talking from a an honest standpoint. Really, like you have to like make sure that your content is in a way that might go against like the algorithm of the platform or whatsoever. But like in a decentralized social media platform, you can actually like communicate in a way that's authentic to you, and then without having to worry about being deplatformed for whatever reason. And like different platforms could deplatform you for a number of reasons. But actually being able to, and then being able to take your following with you. Like let's say if it's not even being deplatformed, or if you're, I wonder like what if your account gets hacked, or it'd probably be much harder to hack an account that's like tied to your wallet, I would assume, than the whole like email password thing, because like all regular traditional social media platforms, they use email and password sign in, and if you use the same email password across different platforms, then that now you can fall into that space where you're much easier to hack now, and then that information gets in the wrong hands, and now you don't have like access to your following anymore. But I wonder if like your following, if it's in your posts, like if all of that is tied to your digital identifier, at least in a sense you would feel like it's immutable, like you own it forever. Like your following is your following, no matter if you built it on Twitter. You can now migrate that following to another platform. That's another thing. So like even without being hacked, it's just starting over sucks. Like I built this, like let's say you built this huge following on Twitter, or let's say you got started on YouTube, and now you join a new social platform and you have to start all over again from 0 followers. But that's really not the case. You have a following elsewhere, and then now you have to like constantly tell your following on another platform to follow you over here, and it's just a bit annoying. And then how algorithms work, you don't even know if your following actually sees what you're saying, because now it's based upon how active they are on the platform, if they actually engaged. Like I know that's usually one of the metrics, is like, do you actually engage with the person that you're following? And it might be the case that you haven't been online for a while, but you still or you just haven't actually been actively liking things on like Twitter, for an example, or another social platform like YouTube, for an example. I watch a ton of videos, but I don't necessarily like every video that I watch, especially if I'm just like deeply enthralled in the video. I might forget to like the video, or even subscribe to the particular channel. But like but in this case, like with being able to own your following, it's just nice to know that all the hard work that you put into amassing that following is not only like owned by, because like right now it's owned by the platform. Like the platform is making sure that they basically own your following. And then if you actually think about it, like with Web3, it's opening your eyes to how much things you really don't own within this space, even though you paid the full like purchase price for it. And what originally got me even thinking this way was just paying attention to one of the most like world renowned hackers, George Hotz, aka GeoHot. And when he jailbreak the PlayStation, he mentioned like, think of the devices that you really don't own, that you rightfully paid for, but like like a PlayStation is essentially a computer, but it's not like I can't install Linux on it. Like I can't really do what I want to do with the PlayStation. But he showed how to jailbreak it, and I know, and he inspired a lot of software engineers, by doing so. He was definitely an inspiration for me as well. But like really opened my eyes into like, you paid for something, you still don't own it. In this case, like you paid for it in sweat equity. Like you actually put in so much time and effort to build this following on a platform just to not own it at the end of the day. So we really like that you brought up that part and modularity of your followers and or friends. For certain platforms, like it's not followers, you have friends, but like just being able to like actually own that piece of the social platform. So yeah, that's something I think that's what makes decentralized social media much more superior to centralized social.
Jaris, you brought up the topic of moderation earlier, and actually, that's a question I wanted to ask Zach. It's such a big challenge for you guys, I imagine. Um, how do you, or if at all, moderate content on a decentralized social media platform?
So we haven't moderated it at all. I think again, this is one of the benefits of of having this coarse filter of people actually spending their crypto on paying for links. So we don't have a bunch of spam bots. We don't have a lot of the crap that you get on social media when anyone can make an account, and you have just like all these bots and all this nonsense. And I mean, you could spend your whole day muting bots on Twitter, and there'll be 100 more. If there was someone posting things that you didn't like or were offensive and needed moderation on CoLinks, it's easy to either just block them or sell their link. And there just isn't the economics for bot farms don't work when you have to pay for access to people. And so we haven't had any issues with moderation at all, because there isn't an algorithm that pushes anything on you, and it's not cost effective for bot farms. So in that sense, it's kind of completely self-moderating.
Makes sense, right?
Yep, because now it's no soft incentive for a bot army to exist, because now you have to actually, like you mentioned, like purchase people's links to even like communicate with them. So yeah, so that pretty much, that's a very strong Sybil resistant feature.
Yeah, it's only, I think it's less than $1 to purchase your own link, and that's basically how you kind of opt in. The first link that you purchase is your own. And that puts you on the platform. And again, it's not, it doesn't cost much, but for bot farmers, any sort of cost barrier, and there's steps. You have to mint your COSOL and then buy a link. We think it's a really high value thing to do. We haven't talked much about COSOL, but COSOL is a soul-bound NFT that goes in your wallet and syncs and takes your give on chain, right? So this is that on chain reputations piece. So if you go look at my COSOL, my Zaku.eth COSOL, it'll show that I was a contributor at Yearn. And not just that I was a contributor at Yearn, but that over 13 epochs, I received, over 1,000 give, which, means like, oh, there was other people thought I was adding value, during that time. You can see the same thing with lots of different circles that I've been involved in. And so it kind of builds this Web3 resume, to say not just, oh, I was at this project, but actually you can see, oh yeah, the people that I collaborated with, like are allocated value to me. And so that's something we're really excited about. It's just, how do we build more of this reputation? There's a lot of really cool projects that are looking at what I would call kind of objective reputation, GitHub commits, for example. That's a useful signal, but it's not complete. And how do you really capture that subjective piece, where it's like someone just, we've all had those people that are like just really great to work with, and how much they add to a team dynamic. And so we're really focusing on capturing that subjective data, where people are just like vouching for each other and building that social graph, that this person's awesome to work with. And if I go on chain and see like, oh wow, this person received give from Jaris and from MetaDreamer and from Zook, like, oh wow, okay, those are all people I know. Like this is really high signal stuff. And as more things come on chain, and as we have DAOs and decentralized things, we think that reputation piece is going to become more and more important as sort of an initial filter.
As you were mentioning all that, I immediately thought of like the subjective piece that could be brought into here, and this is my favorite feature of Coordinape. I love the notes from Coordinape. Yeah, because I remember those days like being like an early contributor at Bankless DAO and just receiving an overwhelming amount of notes, especially around the time when I became a level 2 member. It was just really nice just looking over it all. It made working in Web3 feel that much more fulfilling. Where I didn't receive that working odd jobs, like working at Starbucks or Harbor Freight Tools and different places, being a waiter and all that type of stuff. I didn't get that like that level of like love and appreciation, and then like working in Web3 and then contributing within a Coordinate round, and I'm receiving these notes and all of this. A lot of this feedback and love from the community. I look at it because the way how you mentioned like a cold soul NFT is basically like an on-chain resume, but then like all those notes are basically like on-chain letters of recommendation. Basically, you could sort of like look at it that way, where like in the legacy world, you have to get one of your friends to type up a letter of recommendation and take out time and then like have that and store that as a PDF and like hopefully always have that in your storage, like if you need to like apply for a job in the future. Like what if you like it's a potentiality of losing that, but if it's like on chain, you always have access to it, to that letter of recommendation. And not only that, but it's verifiable now. Like it's not like you can make up a letter of recommendation and like just say it was written by this person, but like in this sense you're actually verifying who, because it's coming from their wallet address, so it's not like you made up this letter of recommendation.
Exactly. We're actually looking at finding ways. A lot of people, the notes in Coordinate, just so people are clear, when you allocate give to someone, you can also send them a note. And we made those initially private because we wanted people to be able to speak really freely. And people will speak differently if they know something's going to be public. But soon you'll have the chance to be able to, if both people say like, yes, I'm fine with these notes being public, then you'll be able to mint those. So you'll actually have an NFT of like some of the appreciation you've got. And we've definitely heard that. Someone sent me a picture of a note that they framed because it was so impactful for them to hear it. And that's really at the core of both, I think, CoLinks and especially Coordinate gift circles is really, teams do well when you focus on what's working, focus on strengths, and really, appreciate what people's contributions are. It doesn't take much, like you were just saying, to say like, hey, you did awesome on this, I really appreciate it. Like that will keep people going. Oftentimes more than a pay raise or, a bigger token allocation or something. It's like, it's very close to the bottom of the pyramid of Maslow's needs is actually like, appreciation and reciprocity.
Most definitely. And then I wanted to get into some more use cases of IDriss as well. I know we're near the top of the hour, so I'm going to pretty much combine these two questions, even though one part was already pretty much hit upon, where we talked about why you guys decided to utilize like functioning on top of a centralized platform like Twitter and Twitch. It's in order to meet users where they're at, as opposed to creating your own social platform from scratch. But I'd like to get into like what are some other features you guys have been working on. I know you guys been building a ton of new features over the last month. Would you like to spend some more time highlighting those features? And also would like to know about how communities have used IDriss in the past, because I'm aware that people can use IDriss for Gitcoin donations and other public good funding mechanisms as well. And would love for you to highlight, how can people use IDriss for Gitcoin funding, especially when it comes to donating on, like I know like with one of the last Gitcoin rounds, it was through like a new chain that was created. If I'm not mistaken, I know I'm gonna get the chain. Was it PGF chain, public good funding chain? I believe it was. But I know there was some like issues around that, but you guys are working on ways to alleviate that burden. Can you guys please elaborate more on what you guys have been building in the last few months?
Oh yeah, for sure. Fundraising is a very big use case of IDriss. So a little bit of context here. IDriss has been actually primarily funded by Bitcoin. as we are a fully open source software, and we're extremely grateful for the Gitcoin community to help us get started almost 2 years ago. So last year we were wondering, since a lot of things around Bitcoin rounds is happening on Twitter. So there are even people who run 24/7 Twitter space during Bitcoin rounds for 2 weeks. Incredible. We thought how to make it easier for people to donate to your brand. So during GG18 in August last year, we experimented with integrating Bitcoin contracts directly into IDriss extension. Thanks to the permissionless nature of Gitcoin and their contracts. And we enabled direct donations to Gitcoin grantees right from Twitter. So imagine you're sitting in a Twitter space, listening to someone pitching their project, and you are able to donate in less than 15 seconds. And that went really, really well. Although we launched a couple of days late into the round, so effectively there was about 9 or 10 days, we had over 1,200 donations processed via the browser extension. And then we thought it's a good idea to double down on the use case of fundraising. And we actually, a couple of months later, we consolidated all the major public goods funding mechanisms like Gitcoin, Retro PGF, GiveEth, ClearFund, and also DAO drops. And we kind of airdropped the donation badge to all of those grantees. So over 800 grantees from all of those funding sources, as most of this data, all of this data actually is public and on-chain. So, and you mentioned, Jaris, that you hinted at the cross-chain functionality, and indeed, at ETH Denver hackathon, actually a little bit of more context. Actually, a couple of features of IDriss has been built as part of hackathons, and it was no different this time. During the ETH Denver hackathon, we hacked on an upgrade to the existing open source IDriss code. So we thought that looking at Twitter posts and feedback that Gitcoin was receiving in the last rounds, people had trouble getting their money to networks where the rounds happen. So there's a little bit of conflict of interest there. We can imagine that L2s, when they come to Gitcoin, they probably want some form of exclusivity. So, hey, we'll give you, we'll sponsor the round, but we'd like the round to be run on our chain. But that's against the interest of users. Users want to donate on whatever network their money is. So we basically build a smart contract framework that will enable you to donate from any major EVM network, and that uses a cross V3 intent-based solution under the hood. So we basically bundle the donation and bridging in one transaction. So now we're firing on all cylinders to make it into and release it as part of our live product for the next round, which starts in April, almost in a month, April 20th. You asked, Jaris, also about other use cases. I'll just very briefly talk about them. Social tipping, rewarding content creators. I know we integrated some of the most active gaming communities into the extension recently and their tokens. For example, Parallel with their Prime token and Avegochi with their Ghost tokens. There's a tons of Twitter creators and Twitch creators that deserve to be rewarded, and now their communities can natively keep them in their native coins. And another use case would be distributing community rewards. So as imagine you again you run a Twitter space, and then you could in a very easy way reward people from your community who show up and are active on Twitter Spaces.
Oh yeah, I envision that being used within ApeCoin DAO. And I know you guys just got an AIP pass, AIP 369, and yeah, because like I'll be on a lot of ApeCoin Twitter Spaces, and you know one of the things that we mention all the time is it only takes one ApeCoin to become a member of ApeCoin, and it'd be nice like during a live Twitter space. I remember I heard that during my first Twitter space with them, and I didn't have an ApeCoin at the moment. I did purchase some afterwards to be like an actual member of the community, but it would have been pretty cool, like to actually be able to like receive some ApeCoin from somebody that enjoyed the space, like directly, like during the space. That would have been a nice social feature, you know. So yeah, I always thought that was really cool being able to do that, like live tipping during Twitter Spaces, and
Yeah, I think it's really brilliant. I'm stoked to try it out. I think more and more, one thing that we've learned over the course of our time at Coordinape and CoLinks is like meet people where they're at. You know, people don't want to leave to your app to do things. That's a lot of why we're building Give into Farcaster. Um, but I'm really excited to check out IDriss and try it. I love the idea of just being able, especially for folks like Gitcoin and Giveth, two amazing projects in the space, to just let that capital flow so much more freely. The activation energy to actually go to their site and find the project and make a donation versus just being able to like hit it while you're in Twitter. That's a game changer.
Perfect. We'd like to. I think we'll try to post the links to the browser extension somewhere in the chat as well. And for those who would like to get their own tip jar as content creators, for example, on Twitter, and get the green ID to be able to receive tips as an individual. There is a small protocol fee, but for for everyone who is on this call, feel free to send your public wallet address to our main Twitter profile, which is IDriss_XYZ, and we will add you to an allow list for a free registration. And if you are an open source project or a project that is considered a public good, then also feel free to connect with us. This is and will always be free for public goods to be able to fundraise through IDriss.
Very nice. And I understand that there's a reputation feature within IDriss as well with the different colors of badges. At least with I know like the default badge is green, but the red badge, when I see somebody with a red badge, it gives me a signal that this person is actually like an open source builder. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the red badges?
Oh yeah, so I was earlier speaking about how we added over 800 grantees from different public good funding mechanisms. So this is exactly it. Those profiles who have the red badge, they were added as part of this initiative. So they are considered a public good. So they are either an open source project or other type of public good in Web3.
Yep, come on. I'm sorry, Leonard, go ahead. I see that you were about to say something.
No, might have been just some other sound here that interrupted. Sorry.
Maybe I'll just briefly mention our recent integration, which is a snapshot integration. We realized that a lot of people are missing votes in DAOs. The participation is very low. So we integrated snapshot. So now when you have our browser extension enabled and go to a profile of a DAO that has an active snapshot vote, or when you scroll through the main feed and you see a tweet from such a DAO, and you will see a snapshot branded widget on the right side of your screen, and you'll get reminded of a DAO vote. So we hope this will help you get reminded about ongoing DAO votes while scrolling Twitter.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, while aimlessly scrolling Twitter, I can now be notified that there's actually a snapshot vote available to check out. Because yeah, otherwise, like you're not necessarily receiving those type of alerts unless you're active on discourse. And when you're like heads down building, you may miss out on so many opportunities to actually participate in governance. So glad that you guys created that feature along with all the other features that are available, especially with cross-chain tipping, like in terms of doing that for a Gitcoin round. But I envision the same thing if you're paying someone or like tipping somebody, or I guess paying for an item. Like I know earlier we were talking about trading meme coins, and I have a decent amount of funds on base for that very reason. And if I wanted to send somebody some funds, like, well, let's say somebody wanted to receive, USDC on mainnet, just to make it easier to like be able to convert it to fiat if that was their primary function for receiving tips on Twitter or on Polygon, because it's pretty easy to off ramp on Polygon as well. At least like that, they could choose that to be their destination token, and then you can send them. Or I could even send them, like an ERC20, like any ERC20 token. I'm assuming from any chain, and it still like gets converted into their destination token, since you guys are utilizing the cross bridge. I know we didn't have much time to really go into the specifics of how you guys are bridging assets, but have been paying attention to it and really like it. And then CoLinks, I really love a lot of the features on there, especially like how you guys are utilizing AI. And I actually haven't seen any social platform that utilizes AI in that way, especially when it comes to like prompting discussions as well, to get an idea like the question of the day. And then it basically promotes meta governance on the platform, where it's not just all these different DAOs living in silos talking about what's important to their DAO. Now you can talk about an overarching theme that anyone within the Web3 community can add to, and then just showing highlights as well, utilizing AI. I think is really cool. Co-sol NFTs, reputation, all the stuff that you're bringing into the space. And we're talking about modularity, and then the fact that you're building like if you think about traditional social platforms, there is like heated competition. Twitter, Facebook, it seems like they don't like each other much. But you guys are actually building a feature that will be embedded into Farcaster. It's not like decentralized social platforms or Web3 social platforms have to, hate each other and hope the other one fall off in order to survive in a space. You can actually build together. And I think that that's one of our biggest strengths in Web3. But I know we're a little bit over time. I want to thank everybody for joining us, everyone in the audience for joining us today, and definitely want to thank you guys, Zach, Gio, Leonard. Thank you for this amazing space. I really enjoyed this conversation with you guys, and really looking forward to building together in the near future.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
No problem.
See y'all on CoLinks.
I just signed up actually, so
remember about the invite links.
Yeah, they're in there on the Twitter space, and yeah.
I just signed up. I just signed up with one of them, so they work.
Yeah, I see you in there, Leonard. I gave you a shout. So yeah, look forward to more over there. Thanks a lot, y'all. Take care.
You guys.
Yeah,
See you on CoLinks, guys.